Hey guys, it's Boki here from Gigi's Fabric Shop, home to Juki and Janome Junkies for another episode of our Make It Monday. And in this little episode, we have 3 new mug rugs that I have written just for you. So let's dive into how you can make these. So let's go over where you can get this pattern, what you need from start to finish. Of course, I'm going to be showing you how to make all 3 of these little cutie patooties. These all finish to be about 6 by 9. They're all super cute and simple, but have so much opportunity for you to really make them your own. So let's dive into downloading the pattern, then we'll go over supplies, cutting, and then we'll start the assembly. So let's get into it. So step number 1 is going to be download your pattern. Head over to JukiJunkies.com and look up the Modern Mug Rug Trio to download it, or you can just look in the description down below. Mind you, anything that I'm going to be talking about today will be in that description down below, so definitely take advantage of that. And on JukiJunkies.com, I'm also going to have some coordinated kits for you guys. These are very scrap friendly, but I do like to put kits together because it's just fun to coordinate them. So if you're looking for a fun coordinated group of fabrics, head over to Juki Junkies for this. Now it's time for supplies. So in case if you're opting out of any of the kits that I'm coordinating for you, this pattern is extremely scrap friendly. And I mean extremely scrap friendly. You can use fat quarters, you can use fat eighths. The kits that I have put together on JukiJunkies.com are all fat eighths, and that's plenty to make at least 1 of each of these. But if you cut strategically, you should be able to make 2. So just keep in mind the way the pattern is written for you guys. I made sure that I included nice detailed charts so you know exactly where each component goes. But we're talking very small pieces for each one of these, so you don't really need a lot. A fat quarter, fat eighth, any scraps that you might have left over should be plenty. So this is what I'm working with. This is one of the kits that I have offered. This group right here is going to be for my sunset. I recommend doing like an ombre dark to light, so that's going to be the water. I have a fun little linen for the background, and then this beautiful burnt orange for the sun. For this star, this has so many fun ways you could do this. You could do it more monochromatic like I did here, where it's like the 2 shades of blue, or you could do opposite colors, complementary colors. You could do, you know, so many fun things, or black and white would be really cool here too. So for this one, I'm actually using these 2 colors. It's like a beautiful sand and this denim-like one. That's going to contrast really well. So that one is for that. And then next up is the heart. Endless possibilities here too. So I'm going to be doing the background as these really fun little white leaves, and then the heart is going to pop in this fuchsia, so it's going to look really cool. And I think we're going to start off with, let's start off with the heart, because the heart is just so stinking cute. Look at the fun quilting that's around it. We're going to start with the cutting instructions for the heart. Be mindful that I'm not going to be giving you exact cutting instructions, since this is not a free pattern like some of the other previous videos that we have done on our channel. Once you download the pattern and purchase it, you'll get the increments that you need to cut. So I'm not going to be going over those specifics. You'll get all those fun little math equations and numbers once you purchase the pattern. I wanted to show you guys that diagram that I was talking about as far as cutting. So the way that this pattern was written is I broke each little mug rug up per section, so you could decide which one you wanted to make. This is the diagram for the heart, so that way if you really wanted to make each one of these a different color, you knew exactly where each piece was going. I feel like a lot of patterns don't do that, so it's hard to customize it. I wanted to have full customization accessible to you guys, so there is that. I also wanted to show you that at the end of this pattern, I did provide like coloring sheets, so you could easily print this out and color it to help you plan the colors that you want to do. I like doing these to plan out the quilting that I'm going to do on these mug rugs. So just keep in mind that that's something that I included in the pattern for you guys to help you plan. Prepping your fabric for cutting. Since a lot of these are really itty bitty tiny components, I would highly suggest that you pre-starch all your fabric beforehand, so then that way it really kind of locks in those fibers and you get more accurate points and the fabric doesn't stretch as much. Just a quick little lesson when starching your fabrics. I like to shake my starch, so then that way everything is nice and mixed in together. It's not separated. I'm going to go ahead and spray my area, and you'll see that it starts to begin to become saturated. And I'm going to try to use the other half of this fabric just to really press in that best press. And sometimes what I'll do is like I'll keep it like this, and I will iron it, because I don't like to iron directly on it, just in case it helps to avoid any sort of staining or anything on the fabric. So I like to do it like this, use the other side to help dry that out. And then I'll usually flip it over like so. And just give it a good little starch. Once that's all nice and dry, all those marks should go away. And then you can repeat this on the other side. You don't have to. If you want an extra starchy fabric, you can do it on both sides. But really for this project, I think one side is just enough. So go ahead and proceed to do this with however many pieces you're going to be doing today for your mug rugs to ensure that it's nice and crisp and get all the wrinkles and crinkles out. So since I'm making all 3 mug rugs, I have everything nice and prepped, ready for cutting. So remember guys, once you receive the pattern, you'll get all those cutting instructions. I have them broken up per individual mug rug. So this heart one is going to be called Amore, so you can follow the Amore mug rug and follow that chart there. You'll have color 1 and 2 for this one, but remember with the broken down diagram, it should be easy for you guys to identify where those pieces go if you wanted to do any customization. Another thing I'd like to make you guys aware of is the things to know before you start section. I would definitely read that before you jump into this pattern, just so that way you are following everything that needs to get done here and you are fully aware of the pattern. I would also encourage you reading that section about that pattern before you just jump into it, so then that way you are a little bit more familiar with it. You know, it doesn't hurt to read it. It's like reading a recipe before you start cooking, which you definitely should do. It makes life so much easier. So I'm gonna go ahead and start cutting these, and I like to label my pieces as I go so I know what is what. These are G and H. This is M and N of the heart component, and I'm gonna cut out all of the color 1, which is the background color, have everything cut out and labeled so then we can follow that chart for assembly. Once you have everything all cut out for your little heart, we're going to start off with creating the little hasker triangles that go on the bottom here to make the point of the heart. That's going to consist of grabbing your E and F pieces and your M and N pieces from each colorway. They should be the same size, so you're just going to break those up into little groups like so. And what we're going to start off by doing is placing those right sides together, and you should have them perfectly aligned on top of one another. And then you're just going to create a line from corner to corner, like so. And you're going to create your little stitch line, and that's exactly where we're going to sew it down. So just grabbing my friction marker, just drawing myself my little cheat line, and that's my sew line. So I'm going to do that on both pieces. And we're going to sew that down. So I'm going to go ahead and set these to the side because this is not the only assembly that we're going to be doing for the hearts. The next little section we're going to be working on is these top hearts with the little hasker triangles in the corners to create the actual heart shape at the top. That's going to consist of grabbing your G and H pieces and grabbing all 4 of the I, J, K, and L pieces from the background. And these are little squares, okay, so there's not anything to pay attention too much to there, but for this square, there are 2 different sides. So you see how right here, if I place it this way, this is not the same. This is going to be the top of the heart. So the measurement here needs to match up like this and not be small. So this is the bottom of the heart. You need to make sure things line up. You're going to take one of these squares and place it in the top left-hand corner. Grab another square, place it in the top right-hand corner. And you're going to draw little lines from corner to corner. Sometimes for me, since I'm experienced and I'm a little bit more confident with this, I usually just draw a dash line for these smaller pieces like this. But you feel free to be as accurate as you can to make sure that you get them into the points like that. All right, so kind of look at this as the other half of the heart. Grab your other heart piece, make sure that it's the same. This is wrong, right? It's not big enough. Then grabbing the last 2 little guys, placing those in the corners like so, and just drawing your stitch line from corner to corner, making sure that you're doing it in this direction. It's really important to do it in this direction because these are your sew lines, and when you press these open, it's going to make the actual shape of the heart. If you do it the other way, it's going to go this way, and that's not what we want, right? We don't want it to look like that. So you got to make sure you're following it accordingly so that it actually makes the shape. So once you have everything nice and situated, feel free to pop pins if you need to. We're going to go over to the sewing machine and we're going to sew this out. Okay, so just so we go over a couple settings on the machine before we start, I am sewing on the TL2010 right now. I have my presser foot pressure set at about the middle dot on that little window to the left. Our stitch length for piecing, for me, since I'm working with Glide 40 on the machine, I always like to keep mine right under 2, so kind of like a 1.8. And I have a 8012 needle on my machine right now. I'm working with Glide 40 in the color Stone, and we are ready to get piecing. So let's go ahead and start creating our larger half square triangles. Those are the bottom parts of the triangle, of the heart, should I say. So let's go ahead and start piecing those, just so right along the line that you created from corner to corner. It's okay, there's no rhyme or reason here unless you're working with like a directional fabric where you have to pay attention to the orientation of your prints. But really, there's not really a wrong way to do this part. All right, so once you have that ready to go, you're gonna trim. You have your 2 pieces, and you're just gonna go ahead and trim this down to one side by like 1/4 of an inch. You can do this really nicely. You can just grab a pair of scissors and kind of eyeball it here, and then we're gonna go ahead and press these nice and open here. Let's go ahead and sew the tops of the hearts. Remember, those are this little smaller rectangle pieces with the tiny squares in the left and the right. So go ahead and just make sure that they're perfectly butted up in the corners, that they're not too far off. Okay, you can remove one so it's a little bit easier to manage. And then you're just gonna sew on that line that you drew, your sew line. Following like so, okay? And then putting the other one down, making sure that those sew lines are going in the right direction. You saw how I accidentally just flipped it like this? That wouldn't make sense if we sewed it like that. So you gotta make sure it's going in the right direction to make the top of the heart, and sew that down, and go ahead and repeat the same series of steps for the last one. Okay, so now we're just gonna trim these to also be about 1/4 of an inch using some scissors. And again, you can do this with a rotary cutter. You can just grab some scissors and just kind of eyeball it, but just trim it to be about 1/4 of an inch. Shouldn't be really smaller, so it kind of looks something like so. And you're gonna repeat that to both. And then we're gonna go over to our ironing station, and we're just gonna press all of our seams open. I did leave a note about that needs to be not done after every step. So let's go ahead and press everything nice and crisply open. So this is what it should look like, nice and pressed. Let's go ahead and just give this a good little press open, and be very careful with these pieces. The starching should help to not deform these pieces, but you wanna make sure that you're not dragging on these pieces so that they stretch, especially with those smaller pieces. So make sure you're lifting and pressing for ironing these little bits. And then for these guys, be extra gentle with your ironing and handling, so then that way they don't stretch. To finger press it and then go in with my iron and give it a good little press. The most important word of advice I can give you here is just to make sure you're really patting, not dragging on these pieces so that you're stretching them out, especially these like smaller details right here. So once you have this all nice and pressed, you can start to see the heart really take its shape. Okay. And this is where we're going to start piecing first. So we're going to start to put these 2 pieces together and these 2 pieces together, and then we're going to grab our C and D pieces that we have labeled. I love using these wool mats because like I'll kind of map everything out, like how it needs to look, like that. And then you'll grab your A and B pieces, and those will go on the top. So we're going to join these two, then when these are all together, or you can do these two, put those together, then put these together, and then the top pieces. So here you can't really do it wrong. You can start by putting these together first, or you can put these 2 together, but the goal is to get the center block assembled first, then put these outside pieces, and then the top and the bottom. I'm starting with my bottom heart pieces, and I'm putting those right sides together so that way I can make the bottom. Make sure they're perfectly nested on top of one another so you can get a really nice crisp point here. And remember, we're using 1/4 of an inch for the entirety of this project. That is in that section in the pattern where it says things you need to know before you start. I'm working with that hinged 1/4 inch foot. I love this foot for piecing. Some people prefer with a guide. I like without. I feel like it helps me focus better. So That foot is available on JukiJunkies.com. It's the hinged 1/4-inch foot, and this is an optional accessory for almost all my TLs. So there's that piece. All right, so I'm gonna set that aside because I'm gonna do all my pressing after I get these two pieces together. I'll place those right sides together, really making sure that they are perfectly on top of one another, so that way it's nice and even, like so. All right, and then same thing, you're just gonna use your 1/4 inch to put those two together. And then you'll get something like so. So you'll go ahead and press that seam nice and open as well, along with the bottom of the heart. So now when we look back at what we have to assemble so far, the heart is almost done. We just have to put these together. So place those right sides together, and then we're gonna take a pin and make sure that we poke through. This is how I like to always get really nice, clean stitches. So I'll poke through the front seam, make sure I get through the back middle, and then loop it in this way. So then when I open it back up, those seams are like perfectly on top of one another. So that really helps me get things to be the way they should. I'll pop one more little pin on the sides here just because I don't want this to stretch out or do any funny business here. So I'll just place a couple more pins and sew the heart together right there. Your biggest job here is to make sure that you don't run over any pins. That is a big no-no. So once I start approaching, I'm going to slowly start backing away that pin. Sew over the seam, move anything if I have to, and really just make sure things are perfectly aligned up. See what we got, and voila! We have a beautiful heart. These little sides will get sewn in, and this heart will be a little bit more defined once we put the other pieces, but let's go ahead and put those side C and D pieces to the left and to the right of this. Remember, C and D pieces are the same size, so there's no right or wrong here. Once you've pressed your seams open, go ahead and put one onto the left of the heart, one to the right, and have those sewn in position so we can finish up the heart. So now we have this all put together. Now we just need to grab our A and B pieces, which are those really long kind of strip-like pieces, and place those on the top like so, and sew that into place on the top and the bottom. A little tip, you guys, I like to pin far enough into the project so then that way I don't have to remove any pins. So if I know I'm using a 1/4 inch seam allowance, I'm going to place my pins like 1/2 inch in, so then that way it's like free and clear out the way. It's still holding everything, but I don't have to take anything out as I go. That looks like a heart. Look at that. Super cute. So we just got to press these last seams open, and then you have this one all completed. Ta-da! We have our adorable little heart all pieced and put together. And don't worry, at the end of this video, I'm going to be talking about some quilting ideas and inspirations. The next one we're going to put together is the New Day little mug rug. This is the sunset looking one, or sunrise. It can be interpreted whatever way, but this is the next one we're going to be doing together. So go ahead and follow your chart to have everything cut out. Keep in mind this one has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 colors and components to this, which you could customize this again to whatever you'd like. It's really easy with that diagram. So go ahead and get everything cut out, and then we're going to start assembling the sun, and then we're going to do the ocean and get this one all put together too. All right, so once you have all of your components cut out for this little guy, it should look something like this. You have your 3 colors for the bottom, your A, B, C, your I and H pieces, which will be these components, your D and E pieces, which go here, and then F and G are the sun, and J is the little strip that goes up at the top. So we're gonna go ahead and start by working on the sun. So what we're gonna do is grab our F and G pieces along with our 2 H and I's. And they're gonna go in the corners like this. So one is gonna go in the left-hand upper corner, one is gonna go in the right-hand upper corner, and same thing here, we're just gonna be creating that stitch line from here to create the little fold, the accent to the sun, so it looks like it's setting, and then same thing from this corner to this corner. So then we're gonna go over to our sewing machines and sew on our draw lines. Sewing on that line as accurately as humanly possible. So we got that little guy, okay? And then the next one, just like that. All right, so we have those little blocks created, and then I'm gonna use my scissors again to trim this down to about 1/4 inch. I need to get some sharper scissors over here. You guys saw that? And we're just gonna press those seams open like we did in the past. So again, I'm using my wool mat to help me map this out. We have those sun pieces nice and completed. We're gonna grab our D and E cuts, which are the same cut, and you wanna find the side, obviously, that matches up with this block. Obviously, this doesn't work that way. So it goes like this. All right, and just so you kind of understand how the rest of the pieces are gonna go, once that gets constructed, you have your J piece at the top, and then you have your ocean. So how we're gonna go ahead and piece all these together is piece the sun together, sew these on, create our water, and then join everything together. So we're working in strips, starting with the sun pieces. Make sure the solid colored side of the suns are matched together. Put those right sides together and then sew that together using your 1/4 inch. Like so. Make sure you press that seam nice and open. I'm gonna go ahead and grab those D and E pieces and just start joining them as well, and then I can press it all in one go. So now you have a nice big long strip, and go ahead and press all those seams nice and open. Now what we can do next is grab our J piece, the tiny little strip for the sky, and join that to the sun. I just placed a couple of pins, so that way everything stays nice and together. Once that's all done, you can take out your pins and press that seam. After you've pressed your last little bit of the sky, we're gonna go ahead and start assembling the waters together, A being the thickest piece of the darkest color that you've chosen, then B, then C. Just piece those together with the lightest at the top, darkest at the bottom, and then once that's pieced, we're gonna join it to the sun. So go ahead and put your sun and your water right sides together and sew that together. And ta-da! Let's give this last seam a good press and we're all done. Woohoo, you guys, we got 2 down, 1 more to go. Last one that we're gonna be doing together is the 2-toned star. These are looking awesome and really, really cute. So I can't wait to quilt these and bring them to life. But let's go ahead and join the last one, which is gonna be the little star. Go ahead and have all your components cut so that way we can start. Okay, so next and last one is the 2-tone star, which, like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, you could do tone on tone here, or you can do black and white, or complementary colors, or whatever you want. We'll really let your mind just have fun with this one. So for this sample that I'm making, I'm using 2 colors, just complementary, just this really nice like linen tan with this denim look. So out of each color, you're supposed to cut out a specific square, okay? And then for this, we're gonna be doing the magic 8 method, which is really, really fun. You're gonna get 8 half square triangles out of just this one little square. So how you're gonna do that is you can use a ruler. These are from Fons and Porter from Omnigrids. These are great. Creative Grids also has one that's really nice. These are made specifically for half square triangles because the center line matches from point to point, and then you get to make these little markings that are 1/4 inch from those center. So this is perfect because these are our sew lines. So we're creating our little sew lines right now, and you're gonna do this from every corner. And then you're gonna repeat to the opposite side, and there you go. So these are now your sew lines. So we're gonna go over to the sewing machine and we're gonna sew right on these lines, and then we're gonna slice this up to get 8 perfect half square triangles. So all we're doing is just sewing right on the lines that we just drew, making sure everything is nice and in position. Okay, so once you have those all sewn out, we're gonna chop this up to get those 8 half square triangles. And if you don't believe me, it's like a little magic trick. So I'm just using the ruler and putting it on top of one of the stitch lines that I just made and going 1/4 inch in. So I'm essentially cutting in between those 2 stitch lines that we just made. Remember, so this is a half, so we're cutting right in between from corner to corner, like that. Then we're gonna go here and do the same thing on this side. Just use 1/4 inch to split that. All right, so far we got 4. You're probably thinking, Boki, how are we gonna get another 2? Well, we're gonna cut those triangles in half and then get our last 2. So trim that. So now we have 4. I like to use this, I think this is a 6.5 by 12.5 inch ruler from Creative Grids. This one's really, really nice because it has those angles to it. The 45-degree angle is perfect for this. I don't know if you can see it, but it's the white line on the ruler right now. And all I'm doing is popping it right on top of that corner and the side of the triangle is perfectly aligned with that white line. So that's what's gonna help me cut right in the middle of that half square triangle. You see that? So now, look at that. Got 2. Repeat the same thing. Tip of the ruler to the tip of the triangle, the side of the triangle is with that 45°. Cutting that right in half. And there you have it. So now you have a total of 8, and you're going to make 2 stacks of 4, so that way 4 can go to one half of the mug rug and the other 4 can go into the other half. Once you have them all nice and pressed, you're going to make sure these get trimmed down to be 2 inches, okay? Again, this Creative Grids ruler is pretty awesome because it has all the little markings and stuff on it. So again, where that little white 45° angle, it's gonna sit right in the middle of that seam, okay? And this is my 2 and this is my 2, so these are all gonna be 2.5, so they just have to get trimmed down to be 2, like so. Like that. So now they're little 2 inches and they're perfect because when you use a ruler that has a 45° angle, it just gets perfectly in there. And I wrote this pattern because I usually do like the half square triangles to be bigger because then I can ensure that they're like the perfect size. Sometimes like a pattern will be written to be the exact size and then you have to trim it, and then sometimes it's like not big enough. So yes, it's a little bit bigger, but to your benefit, because then you can really just make sure that they're all perfectly 2 inches and they really go from angle to angle, because when they go perfectly from the corner to the corner, that's what gets you really clear points. So go ahead and trim all these down and make sure that they're 2 by 2, and we'll get assembling everything else. So just a few extra steps for perfection. I think it's definitely worth it. Even if these were perfectly 2 inches, you would have to still spend time to make sure they're really square, and at least this way you can ensure perfection. I don't know about you, but I like perfection. So here is, you know, what we're looking at, what we're trying to do here. All you're left is with your 4 D, E, F, G, A, B, C, H pieces, and now we're just gonna start assembling it so we can kind of see how things are supposed to be turning out. So first, I like to grab one of each color, and again, in your pattern, there's a really clear diagram that shows you all of this, but I always love using my wool mat to help me get myself going here. So at this point, you just start using all your little pieces to create your stars. Goes like that. It's a little bit like a puzzle piece. Quilting is much like a puzzle piece, y'all. Much like a puzzle piece. And then here. And then your last 2 pieces go down, oh, like that. And then your last couple pieces go around like that, over here, and it looks a little crazy, but we see the stars, they're two-toned, and we're getting there, okay? So how we're gonna start to construct this is starting off with these 2 pieces. So let me just move this out the way so it's not as confusing. So the pieces that we're gonna first start off with is these 2 pieces. We're gonna sew those 2 together. Okay, we're working with the middle section. Okay, so very much like the heart where we worked in the middle, we're gonna sew these 2 together and then join this from the left, this to the right, sew these 2, and then assemble it kind of like in rows, okay? Just like we did before, using a nice 1/4 inch here. And really take your time with these smaller, more intricate pieces, okay? So that is piece number 1. So now what we need to do from here is grab the corresponding color to make sure that it matches up to create that it's touching the star, the inside of the star. It's not gonna go this way because it's not the same color. So you always kind of know you're doing it the right way when the same colors are together. So we're gonna start joining this from the left side of this piece first, and then the contrasting color, the blue, onto the right. So now that we have the middle of the star complete, we need to focus on the top and the bottom, and you'll notice that these are just 2 pieces, so these need to get joined together, these 2 need to get joined together, and then we'll strip it all together to have 1/2 of the star done. All right, 1/2 is almost all completed. We're just gonna join these rows together to complete the 1/2, okay? So we're gonna put these right sides together, and I'm gonna do that same little trick about making sure that I poke through the first seam front, middle, back, middle. That way I can really make sure that it gets on top of one another, and I can always check myself by opening it, and you see how those points are perfectly on top. So that one's ready to rock and roll. And then I am gonna place one more pin just right here. Same thing. Gonna bring those seams together. Make sure they're right on top of one another to keep everything in place. And now we're gonna sew at 1/4 inch to complete the 1/2. Now that we have the one side done, we really have to just repeat the same thing on the other side that's technically inverted from this star. So we're starting off piecing these together, joining this whole middle section, making these strips, and putting the whole thing back together again. Ta-da! We have 2 inverted stars done. Now we're just gonna place these right sides together, do that same little trick with the points. All right, last and final little stitch out, and then we're done with mug rug number 3. And these are super fast, you guys. I mean, obviously I have to take some time to explain them to you, but they are pretty fun to make. And the way I wrote the pattern is that you guys can fully take advantage of these little blocks and integrate them into other projects. I would love to see how you guys take these blocks and turn it into something else. That'd be so fun. But just like that, we are done. And voila, just like that, we've created all 3 of our little mug rugs. These are a super easy thing to sew, you guys. The heart turned out super cute. It was kind of fun to see it in like a lighter colorway too. So that was really fun. I'm gonna talk about quilting here in a second so we can, you know, go over your options and things you can do. Love this one. I can't decide which one I like more. They're both so stinking cute. And last but not least, our little 2-tone star, which is really fun. You could easily, I did make one where like the star started on the other side. So instead of them touching, they were like opposite corners. That's really fun too. So be creative there. Let's talk about quilting really quick. So as far as your quilting goes, you can do free motion quilting. You can do like embroidery in the hoop type of thing, or you can just do simple straight lines like I did on this first one. I just did them in one direction and then in another direction, and it worked out great. And I loved the binding on this project. It turned out so, so good. So as far as your quilting goes, I gave you instructions about that in the pattern on page 6. Use an 8 by 11 inch piece, cut your batting and your backing to be the same, do your quilting, trim it down, and then just do your binding. The binding is really, really easy. You need just one strip of whatever width binding you like to do. I like to do 2, 2 1/4, especially for this project since it's a little bit smaller. But it's nice, it kind of picture frames it in and it looks really good. So for this one, I might kind of feed off of this design or just do it all straight line, whatever really calls my name here, but it's really, really cute. If you don't want to do binding, another great option would be to just do fusible fleece. So grab your front piece, fuse the fusible fleece to the back side of the top, do your quilting, and then cut your backing to be the same size as the top, place it on top, right sides together, sew all the way around, leaving a gap to birth it right side out. And then you just birth it, press everything nice and out, and then do a final top stitch all the way around. So if you didn't want to do binding, that's a great option, but if you know how I feel about the left compensating foot, you definitely will try that out. I would definitely watch that left compensating. We have a really great short about it, so I will link that in the description down below so you can watch it. So for the sunset here, here's another basic straight line quilting. I don't know if you can really see it here, but for the sun, I kind of quilted like the rays coming out of the sun, which was fun. I could do a little bit more high contrast so you'd actually see it. But if you have decorative stitches on your sewing machine, this would be a great opportunity to do like a wave stitch to add texture to the water. You can make the ripples get like tinier and tinier. That would be a really sweet little detail. You could, write something like "You are my sunshine in the sun." Just get really creative. I mean, especially if you have one of those machines that has like 300 built-in stitches, why not take advantage and put something, cute together? The heart was a really fun one for me to quilt. I just went around and echoed the heart at like 1/4 inch. So I just used my hinged 1/4 inch foot and went around and just quilted it. And I could have kept going if I wanted to. I really wanted to put XOXO in the middle. Free motion quilting, this one would be really fun too. So you have so much possibility here for what you can do as far as like quilting goes and how to bring these to life. But these are such easy peasy projects, you guys. Definitely take advantage of those coloring sheets at the end, so then that way you can print out and plan your colors, plan out your quilting, and make them a little bit more personalized for whoever you're making them for. But these are great, and I hope you enjoyed making these. I can't wait to see how you guys like spice these up.